Good evening. Welcome to the 2025 Public Safety Citizens Advisory Board Annual Public Forum. My name is Matt Calhoun. I'm the chair of the board. I'd like to introduce the board before we hand over to the chief and start down here with our council member.
I'm council member for District 2, Katie Tholen. I'm the liaison.
I'm board member Mike Kruger.
I'm board member Haley Prinz.
Board member Drew Kaler.
I'm board member Kyle Boyce.
I'm student liaison Brooklyn Harrington.
We'll hand it over to the chief to proceed with the meeting.
All right, thank you. My name is Bob Muenz, Chief of Police, Blue Springs. Next to me, seated, is our amazing crime analyst, Grace Tully. She's here to support tonight. And I want to welcome everybody to your Public Safety Forum. Tonight's topic, obviously, is going to be crime in your community. So we wanted to talk about that tonight. I shared earlier a few of the stats. We're going to dive into that. First, I want to welcome some pretty important guests here tonight. I see the mayor's in town, in-house, and Council Member Kaler. And I don't see any other council members. Our city administrator, Christine Cates, is here too. So I appreciate everybody coming out. We also have, looks like 3 of our captains are in present tonight. Captain Flowers, Captain Brotherton, and Captain Finera. They're here to help me answer any of your questions you may have and to talk about what we're doing. We're going to present to you tonight some year-to-date numbers and some comparisons to last year on our crime statistics. We use, I've shared with you what we call NIBRS, which is our National Incident-Based Reporting System. We share our crime stats to the state, and then they share them with the federal agencies, and then those are published nationally. In the past, if you recall, and you may not, because we did this several years ago, we switched from our UCR summary-based, Uniform Crime Reporting summary-based system, where the crimes we reported to the state were only the most serious crime in that one incident. We switched to our National Incident-Based Reporting System several years ago because now we're reporting every crime that occurs within that incident. So if it's a burglary and a rape, we report both, not just the most serious. If it's a property damage and assault, we report both of those, not the most serious assault. I think that's a true reflection of our crime. So if you hear me throwing out acronyms like UCR or NIBRS or MIBRS, that's what that means. And then I want to talk about tonight what we do with the statistical information that we gather. And then I want to get some suggestions and answer your questions on what we can do in the future. So we're going to roll through that. Our current crime overview I shared with you earlier. As of 10/10/25 on our NIBRS review, we've had a total of just over 2,200 Group A offenses. Group A offenses are the more serious crimes, the ones that we track. Total arrests throughout the year to date, 1,180. And I want to remind everybody that we could have crimes reported in October and we could have arrests in October, but they may not necessarily correlate. We can make an arrest for a previous crime that occurred in September, or we could make one arrest that cleared several offenses under our incident-based reporting system. We had 96 aggravated assaults so far this year, 504 simple assaults, 80 burglaries, 230 property damage incidents, 355 shoplifting incidents, 89 stolen vehicles, and 167 drug violations. Of those, a majority of the first 6 are calls we get primarily. The drug violation may be more a mixture of officer-initiated activity, maybe a car stop or something else. It may also relate to a call that we get, but it's more likely officer-initiated activity. So this is a different year-to-date we used on this slide. This is our overall crime year-to-date as of 9/23/25. We chose our most 6 prevalent or serious offenses. And you'll see for year-to-date, if you look at that graph, the total peaks and valleys. The linear total climbed steadily. So since January of this year till August, we've had a steady increase in these 6 areas of crime. And you'll see that violent crime makes up 20% of our crimes. Theft is 43%. Crimes against society, which would be a peace disturbance, and those kind of crimes make up 7%. Our sex crimes are 3%. Property crimes, 19%, and our drug crimes make up 1% of the overall crime out of those 6 categories. Now, we broke down those 6 categories so you can see how they trend for year to date. Violent crime. You cannot see the white line. It doesn't show up real well, the linear line, the average, but it's a steady increase. The societal crimes, steady increase. Drug crimes actually decreased. Theft crimes actually decreased. Sex crimes are increasing, and property crime increasing. Now, that's year to date with those peaks and valleys, but if you look at the linear or the average, there's a steady crime in 4 out of the 6. Now, don't get excited about that, because I want to show you something better later on. In 2023, we looked at our crimes in 2023, and you can see, once again, the white line, the linear line, the average does not show up real well on that graph, but you can see how when we start the year, we're at around 250, and we end the year, we're up around 350. That's a pretty steady increase for 2023. 2024, it levels out a little more, and we have a steady increase, but not that drastic of an increase for 2024. Now, when we put all those years together, January 2023 to 2025, and we could go back further, but we didn't want to, it gets cluttered on these, when you're trying to show graphs, we can go back in further years, but this line is trending down. From January of 2023 to August of 2025, short of the spikes and the peaks and the valleys, the linear graph, that gray line, will show you that the average has decreased slightly. So that's a positive note, I feel. Even though we may have some rise in other areas. And I forgot to mention, if you have any questions on the board, feel free to shout out anytime, slow me down if I'm not making sense or you can't hear me. And then later on, we'll take questions from the public or anybody else out there. One of the things we wanted to do, because I always get asked this question, how do we compare to our neighboring cities? Grace and I talked about that, and what we decided to do was take our Group A offenses, our more serious, more prevalent offenses, as of year to date, October 9th, and compare those per 1,000 residents to the other cities. And you can see Kansas City is at just over 68, almost 68.9 crimes per 1,000 residents. Raytown is at 58, almost 59. Independence is 41, just over 41 crimes per 1,000. Blue Springs is sitting right in the middle at 37, maybe almost 37 and a half crimes per 1,000 people. Lee Summit just below us at 31, and then Green Valley at 19 and a half almost. So the problem that I have concerns with trying to compare us to other communities is our clientele, our socioeconomic status, the presence of major interstates or shopping areas. There are a lot of things that can affect that crime rate per 1,000. But this is as close as we could get, and I know that you wanted to see that. And I think it's pretty much where I expected us to be as a community. We wanted to show you requested a heat map with a moving slideshow. Kind of looks like a weather map. So we use the heat maps, and what a heat map is, it'll show you where crime is occurring. And the darker the color, the reds are more offenses, yellow, green it's just like a weather map. And I'll explain what we do with this later, but this heat map is for year to date, for the first part of the year. And you can see it before you watch this too long, and you see right where our crimes are centered. 40 and 7, Woods Chapel and I-70, and then the Coronado corridor where our box stores are, Walmart, Target, Kohl's, Home Depot. That's where majority of our crime occurs. Now, it's going to change. There's going to be other areas in the city that become hotter at different times of the year. Any questions on that heat map? So what do we do with all this information that I showed you? The city, we divide the city into 4 patrol districts. Anything north of Main Street, south of Main Street, west and east of 7 Highway. Those are 4 essentially corners of the city. And we put an officer or 2 in each district. We have a North Scout and a South Scout, and then a supervisor on duty. That's pretty much our rotation. There's more during the day and et cetera. We look at how many calls for service are coming into each district, and then we try to staff that district accordingly. So if the Coronado district, if we're having more calls in that area, we'll try to shift resources to that location, whether it be technology or personnel. So we staff our districts and put our resources where the crime is occurring. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later. We take these heat maps, and Grace will come in every 2 weeks to a command staff meeting, and we do a mini CompStat review that some of the larger cities do. But we'll take a look at that heat map, and we'll say, okay, why are we hot in this area? What is this? Are we having a rash of car break-ins in this neighborhood? Did we have a bunch of stolen vehicles from this neighborhood, or maybe burglaries along this strip mall? We'll take a look at that, and we'll try to determine what we need to do to address those concerns, whether it be a special enforcement, special activity, make people know about it, maybe do, as you see on our next, a social media post that might involve education, or for example, don't leave stuff in your car that you want to keep. Lock your vehicles. Pay attention when you're walking and driving, and those kind of things. So we'll do those social media posts. We may also do a social media post based on maybe something to look out for, or a scam that's going through the neighborhood or the community. We use our outreach and our education programs like Citizens Police Academy, our neighborhood watch groups. We focus on crime prevention, doing education maybe to a bank or to a business or to a neighborhood group. We can do that. And we use the statistics that we get from our different areas and communities in town to say, okay, we need to focus on this in this area of town. We do at least four retail theft blitzes a year, which is essentially we partner with loss prevention at all of our big box stores along Coronado, and we'll set up extra officers and extra people and put the drones out and try to catch the shoplifters when they come in. One, it's not only catching those criminals, but also sending a message that you never know when we're going to do that. And then we have a hotel motel tier ordinance that passed several years ago that kind of like what we did for a comparison to cities where we had crimes per 1,000 people. We take the hotel motels and we divide up the number of rooms they have by the number of calls we have for service at their location. And then we put them in a tier. And each tier requires different activities, crime prevention related, that they have to do working with our staff. And it gets more severe the higher the tier, the number of calls that come to their location. We also have a video surveillance ordinance that was passed several years ago, about the same time as a hotel motel tier ordinance, that requires businesses to have significant video capabilities, cameras, and retention so that we can help them solve crimes that occur at their business. And then we make great use of technology, I feel, in this department with community support. We have the flock camera systems. We have, including freeform search We have Flock Live 911, which puts the 911 call into the vehicle, and hopefully will increase our response time so the officers can hear the 911 call as it comes in. We make good use of drones. There's just so much technology that we use on a daily basis. I couldn't even list it all. But we try to take those resources and put them where the crime is occurring, or use them to help us solve crime as they occur. Prevention and solving crime. That's what we like to do when we can. So what resources are available to citizens? How can they get this information? So Grace and I talked about that. You can, on our website, you can actually go to a community crime map. And I'm not sure how many people know that. We try to do a good job of advertising that. But for example, you can go to our website, city's website, and through LexisNexis, it will show you crime in your community. You can set filters, search range dates, or date ranges, and you can even click on an icon, and this will show you that a stealing occurred on 10/20/25 at 7:47. It'll give you a partial address so you kind of know the block. And it'll even give you a report number. All the icons are different. This one is a motor vehicle theft, auto theft from a parking lot or a garage on October 10th at 2:20 p.m. off of Coronado Drive. So you can see one of the things you can also do is you click on the bell located here, and you can sign up to receive alerts that occur for things near your area. So we wanted to show that. And I hope I did not mess up the PowerPoint.
Chief,
Yes, sir.
I got a question. And I kind of understand it, but maybe the public doesn't. You talked about crime. You talked about aggravated assault versus common assault. You talked about burglary and stealing. There's several elements that make up each one of those crimes. Maybe your command staff can address that or something, but I think that would be useful for the public to have a general understanding of.
Sure. Aggravated assault, simple assault, is usually classified by the whether or not a weapon was involved or how serious the injury was. So broken bone would be a more serious assault than, say, a punch in the face or a kick in the knee. Theft is usually determined whether it's a felony or a misdemeanor by the dollar amount. Burglary is those crimes are usually heightened by whether or not a weapon was involved or someone was in the residence. So depending on the crime, and I'm just going to summarize, it could all be different, but they would have different levels of severity based on some of the factors that are present. That help answer? And they can add comment later if they choose to. Okay. But that's our website. And then
Chief, I think we have another question.
Oh, yes.
Hi, Chief. So I had a question about like crime prevention with smaller businesses. So you said you talked to like the big box stores like Walmart, but do you work with like the Chamber of Commerce, for instance, to help out smaller business keep their businesses safe, especially around the holidays?
We do. I like to think we have a pretty good relationship with Chamber of Commerce. If they have any needs, they can reach out to us. We work with some of those businesses. We've talked to the Chamber of Commerce. I say we partner with the big box stores. We work real good with their loss prevention most time. And we do our retail shopping blitzes there. So we do that. If a smaller business is having issues and they reach out to us, or we see something going on at a smaller business, we'll go in. We can do what we call a CPTED survey, crime prevention through environmental design. We can go in and look at their business, big or small, and say your lighting's not adequate, your bushes need to be trimmed, you need motion lights here, you need a better alarm system, we can go in and do that.
Thank you.
The other way we share our statistics annually is through our annual report. I have a couple here from 2024 that are left over. That is shared with the community on our website and our Facebook page. I'm not sure how, we don't print a lot of them, but I try to share that. So that will do an annual summary of our statistics. And then in there too, in years past, we've also done some previous year comparisons. So why we're here tonight, I went through all that because I want suggestions, questions, comments. How can we as a department do better in sharing this information? And how should we make those crime rates known? Because we'll share them good or bad. I mean, we can't, they are what they are, right? I like to think they're pretty good overall. And our ultimate job in the department is to make the residents, if not safe, at least feel safe. That's our primary goal. We want our residents to feel safe. How can we do that better? And that's where I'm looking for questions from the board, from those present tonight, or on Facebook Live. If they got any questions, put them in the chat. Grace is taking a look at those and following. Grace, do we have any questions from the internet yet?
Not yet.
Okay. So if anybody wants to ask questions, fire away. You can come up to the front and get on the podium, or we can pass a microphone around. Or make any comments. We're looking for suggestions.
Chief, I've got a thought or a question for you then.
Okay.
Looking at the stats and the hotspots, if you will, along Coronado or shopping areas seem to be kind of a common theme. Looking at the crime stats for, say, Lee Summit, where there's a lot of shopping areas over there as well, and they're a little lower than us. Do you have any thoughts on direct correlation to ours being higher than theirs? Would it increase staffing and increase patrols and frequency be of a benefit, or is it more proximity to I-70 versus 470 down in Lee Summit? Have you had any insight on that?
Off the top of my head, no. I mean, increased staffing, I like hearing that. That's great. And I think the problem is you never know how much you prevent. But I think increased visibility is good. And one of our strategic goals is to increase visibility within the community. We do that through marked police units, more people on the street. There's a lot of ways to do that don't exactly require more people. As far as Lee Summit, I've never looked at a heat map for their city. I'm assuming that I would make an educated assumption, and I know what that means, but that they have a lot of theft in their retail areas as well. I don't know what portion of crime that makes up in their community. And Grace attends a lot of meetings with some of our other neighboring cities and people that share a similar role to her. Do you have any input or any insight?
Yeah, again, this is kind of just educated guesses based on the data that we have available and stuff that we've looked at. I think proximity to I-70 is a really big thing because a lot of what we deal with, so like retail theft, car break-ins, car thefts, a big MO for the individuals who are kind of committing these offenses are being able to make a quick getaway. So a lot of the times these people that are pulling off of I-70 and then after they're doing, what they're setting out to do, then they're getting right back on it. So a big thing in the metro has been kind of like traveling retail theft crews. So there will kind of be the same suspects who are committing very similar types of offenses across the metro. A lot of times it is along I-70. So that is going to be a pretty significant factor in comparing like the number of offenses per 1,000 residents between us and other cities. And then another thing that can impact levels of crime is also kind of just like socioeconomic status of the community. So I just like Googled this super quick. The average income in Blue Springs is about $84,000. In Lee Summit, it's about $104,000. Statistically, the average income and the level of crime tend to be correlated, so that could also be a factor. But again, it's not something that I can say for certain this is one reason why certain things are happening. But when you also look at the full spectrum of crimes per 1,000 residents. So that was a big thing too, where when we were deciding which cities do we want to compare Blue Springs to, when it was only looking at Blue Springs compared to like Lee Summit and Green Valley, the difference between 31 and 37 can seem pretty significant. But then when you add in Kansas City, the range extends almost double to 68 crimes per 1,000 residents. So when you add that context, Blue Springs and Lee Summit are on pretty even playing fields. But in that difference, I think I-70 and then average income would probably be the biggest contributing factors.
Thanks. That's why I asked. Short of taking Green Valley maybe off to the side, it looked like there was a common theme of Independence, Raytown, Kansas City, Blue Springs, all right on the I-70 corridor, and I wasn't sure how much those statistics actually would come into play.
And also, Grace did a good job of summarizing all of that, but our proximity to Kansas City also plays a factor into that. And if we were further away, I think a city of our size, it would probably be a little lower, our crime rate. But there's a lot of factors there. 50 highway is a well-traveled highway, 291 or 470. Well-traveled, but I don't know that they have the degree of traffic that I-70 has on it.
Right.
So, Chief, I like the technology piece of it. I'm a big techie guy. Do you partner with any, I don't want to say communities, but the residential, just residents who have cameras and offer an opportunity that if crime happens in the area, everybody has a camera now. Is there a link to upload video that they may have? I've had an incident in the past where I've had to download it to my phone and text it. But if there's I don't know if there's a Dropbox that's secure or something that could be looked into to upload potential videos of.
So at a high level, yes.
Okay.
We'll take that video any way we can get it. We'll go door to door, knock. We have a partnership with Ring. And I might ask Captain Flowers, can you answer that question a little better than I can about how we would collect, and you'll have to grab the microphone or come to the podium. I'll put you on the spot. I know through our crime prevention and our community services bureau, we partner with Ring and Nextdoor, and we can take video through that. I'm not sure exactly how it works. I'll let you answer that question.
Yeah, so it's pretty much what the Chief just explained. When we have a crime occur, we can actually reach out to Ring, who is Axon that bought them up. So Axon Corporation bought up Ring, and they have a portal for law enforcement. We can request video from a specific geographic location. And that's alongside us actually going out and knocking on doors and talking to people who live in the area. Hey, you have a camera. Can we access that camera if we're not able to get it through those databases? That answer your question?
Yeah.
And we're always looking to improve that technology. So I know that if there's something new that comes along and shiny, they're always asking for it. So we try to do what we can to help. I can bring you a microphone. Yeah. And then when you get done, give the captain there and someone else.
No, that works. Chief, can you kind of talking about that, the crime rates compared to the other neighboring cities? Those obviously have a lot more sworn officers and staff. How are we doing with what we have? do you have data that kind of says we're doing more with less, or are we kind of along the same lines?
Yeah, we're doing more with less because we get asked to do more with less all the time.
Sure.
But no, we do. We have 103 sworn officers, and in the patrol bureau, Captain Fanera, what do we have? 60 uniformed in our operations bureau. So those are our boots on the ground, and then we have all the support services and everything. We average about, I think it's 1.5 to 1.6 officers per 1,000 population. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head what Lee Summit's ratio of officers to 1,000 population is. I bet Grace is trying to Google that right now. Maybe not. But, or Kansas City. I know Kansas City's down 300 officers out of their allotted strength. Lee Summit was short officers. We are at 6 vacancies as of right now out of that 103, so that affects, but that's better than the 18 we were at a year and a half ago. One of the strategic goals within our new city strategic plan is to increase the number of officers we have to try to get that to 2 officers per 1,000, which would take us almost over above 120 sworn strength. That's a pretty lofty goal. I hope we get to that. I'd be happy with 1.8 if we can get to that over the next 5 years. Does that answer your question? Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
So,
Sorry, they won't hear you on social media if we don't in the interweb.
so wouldn't it benefit?
Yep, it's not turned on.
Captain Fanera turned it off on you.
Okay, so wouldn't it benefit you guys then to purchase more of the flat cameras?
Mm-hmm. We have 50 some cameras. I want to say 52 or 3 fixed cameras. We have a contract pending right now to add another 18. So we are looking at that. We have almost every intersection, major intersection covered and going in both directions, both state right-of-way and city-maintained intersections, and we're adding to that. I'd like to add, there is some other technology we're looking at I'd like to add as well. But we are looking to increase our partnership with Flock.
Chief, for real quick question regarding the Flock, can you explain what the capabilities of that camera are? Because I know there are some places where cameras can take photos of people running red lights. That's not what we have here, though, correct? It's more of a just informational.
It's a camera that's they're essentially always recording, and they have the ability to take that license plate. It's an automatic license plate reader camera, and it'll track every camera that's going down the highway, or every car going down the highway. When we have a situation, then we don't go into that system until a crime occurs or something is reported to us. And then we can go in and search, and through our new search software we're purchasing, we can look for pickup trucks with ladder racks and the word handyman written on it. And it'll pull up every truck within that parameter of certain date and time and show us exactly where that truck was. And then if we can get the license plate number through that, then we can track that back to the owner. So maybe a crime occurred, and all the information that the victim or the witness has is it's a red Volkswagen Beetle. Well, we can search for all red Volkswagen Beetles that traversed our city in that time frame, and we'll get a plate. And now we got a good lead on suspect. Thank you. Does that help explain that?
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Earlier, we spoke a little bit about retail blitzes and how you work with the loss prevention forces to prevent crime in that area. Due to current situations involving SNAP, the internet specifically has been talking a lot about having a kind of flash mob situation where 30 or more individuals will go into the store and blow an air horn and just grab everything they can and run out. What can we kind of do to prevent or prepare for this kind of situation, just as it stands with boots on the ground?
It's a good question. So we've not experienced that here, and I don't want to. We would have to respond to that with the number of officers that we have in our city, and then we would put out a mutual aid request or request other agencies to come help us. Independence, Lee Summit, Highway Patrol, Jackson County Sheriff's Department, anybody close that could come help us. That would be a very chaotic scene. My hope is that we would be able to at least mitigate some of the damage, get some boots on the ground right away. Our response time on that, I would hope, would be less than 5 minutes, less than 2 minutes, depending on the nature, based on the nature of that call. It's a good question. I'm not sure I'm answering it quite well. Those are my first thoughts. I would like to think that we help educate our stores and our store personnel on how to respond to that as well and what to do. I'm not sure that we'd be a good target for that, but we could be. And I'm hoping that anybody thinking about doing that is not going to watch us. But captains, do you want to add anything to that?
We're seeing some similarities in reference like the flash mobs and stuff like that in that district. And when you're talking about like Target stuff, what they're doing is after the Friday night football games, they're going to Chick-fil-A, and we've seen up to 300 to 400 kids showing up in colors and stuff like that. So they have hired off the officers to go down into the area. I know that the shopping center has hired security and stuff like that because it is spreading into Target, not more so taking items, but just more being a nuisance and just kind of overwhelming so we're kind of seeing something similar. And we know usually when the football games are over with, they will concentrate on those areas and try to get more cars in there and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The good thing is with the flock camera system is it's recording all this information for us. So if we need to go back and catch someone.
I know what you're talking about. You're talking about the federal benefits that are scheduled to expire, and there's a lot of internet traffic about if their benefits are not usable, that they're just going to take stuff anyways. We are aware that there is some rhetoric online about that. I know that the big box stores are watching it as well, and so they are taking steps as well, I'm sure, to be ready in case that happens. A lot of things get said on the internet, whether they actually happen or not. It's really hard to track and be everywhere at once. But we are aware that type of rhetoric is out there.
And on top of that, I would encourage anybody listening, if you see something, say something. If you hear of something that may be planned on the internet that we don't know about, whether it be related to a flash mob or a planned act of violence of some sort, please let us know, and we'll look into that. We have resources to do that. Captain Panera is right. That's an example of Canes hangout for the youth. All of a sudden, after football games, large crowds, they've hired security, and they've hired off-duty officers, and then those on patrol on those evenings, they know this is a gathering place. There needs to be a visible presence down there. So based on how many calls we have going on, the officers are going to try to be in that area.
All right, just to chime in with some of the questions from the live chat, there have been several messages about a recent shooting incident in the city, and I'm paraphrasing, but I believe the nature of these messages are asking how the department goes about communicating with the public about violent incidences such as shootings, and then what are the steps that the department goes through in terms of what information they share with the public, and the degree to which that information is being disseminated.
We use all the platforms, whether it be Facebook, X, Instagram, and we try to get that information out as it's occurring. The shooting they're referencing at Lake Remembrance, no one was injured, although it was a pretty significant event. Unfortunately, the folks that, and I'll admit it, Those of us that have access to updating social media didn't know about it until later the next morning. So that's an example of an incident where we're like, okay, this happened. Nobody was hurt. We're not going to put it out there. We just made that choice, and I'll take the heat for that. However, there are certain things. For example, we had a structure fire this afternoon that we notified, and I'm not sure if there's a posting about it on social media, but we were able to get that information and get it out to some of the people that need to know that. Not everything needs to be shared. We try to be as transparent as we can without releasing too much information or too much sensitive information. So that is a constant struggle. We have a lieutenant, a captain, and a couple other officers who share information on the social media, and they'll run those suggestions or content they want to put out there through Captain Flowers or Lieutenant Hughes. And then if we have time, we'll even include the city's communication director on that so that we can share that information on the city's webpage. We try to be as transparent as we can, but it's almost impossible to keep up sometimes with social media. Not a very good answer to the question, but we do the best we can.
On the same incident, the actual suspects were apprehended. So a lot of times that there was no one else at danger during that time frame.
That's a good point.
So a lot of times what we will do is if somebody's in the area and we're looking for an outstanding person or a subject of matter that we're looking for, we're going to put that information out. Hopefully the public or somebody, a witness, would come forward. In this instance, we did have the witness, we did have the victim, and we also had the suspects in custody. So a lot of times we already have that information, and we don't want to hamper actual case with the prosecutor's office by giving out too much information or getting conflicting stories.
3 of the suspects in that case were juveniles too, so that also limits the information we can release. Anything else, Grace?
Yeah, a couple more. An earlier message in the chat is talking about a string of burglaries that they've noticed in South Blue Springs. They asked, are there additional patrols planned for safety? How are updates shared about finding the suspect?
I'm not sure of a string of burglaries in the south side of town. That doesn't ring a bell with me. But I do know that we've had some suspicious persons prowler incidents, and we've got some officers on foot patrol in the southern part of town. We're trying to put more visibility in that area. And in this one neighborhood, we've been working with the management company of some of the housing units to increase security and safety and lighting in that area.
Okay, and then another message asks, is there a YouTube video or another resource that explains how to view these statistics that we were talking about earlier? I wasn't aware of this site, but it's definitely helpful to know. Maybe you could pin a post on your Facebook page with instructions on how to access the stats. It would make it easy for people who look for information on Facebook.
We'll get that done tomorrow. And also this recording of this presentation will be on our YouTube channel at some point tomorrow, and you'll be able to see what I went through earlier.
And then we've got some more messages about shooting incidents in the city. So it looks like the individual who was messaging, or there were a couple individuals who were messaging about recent shooting incidents. They were talking about a different one that was right across from a school. And I think the ask in these messages is, can we talk more about just the department's responses to shootings in general? And specifically, they want more explanation on the situations where the department decides not to share information with the public in the moment or directly after about those kinds of incidents.
Sure. So normally it depends on the nature of the call. So if it's a shooting, shots fired, and we know based from the witnesses and victims that suspects are injured, obviously we're going to get there. We're going to take care of the injured. We're going to secure the scene. On incidents where people just hear a shot being fired and we don't have any other data, then officers are going to go to the area and look around. If we had a recent one off the street, I recall, it was multiple shots fired. The people doing the shooting apparently left before law enforcement arrival. In that case, we talked to a bunch of witnesses. Nobody really wanted to work with us. However, we did the best we could. We picked up some shell casings, which we'll try to other crimes. And then we gather as much evidence as we can. We talk to as many people as we can. If we can develop leads, we'll follow those leads. If we need help from the community, we'll post that out there. If we have somebody who can post what's going on, we'll do that as it occurs. And sometimes it's later. Is that good? Any more?
I believe that covers all the messages so far. If any more people have any questions on the live and they want to send in their messages, I'll make sure to read those out.
Yeah, and we can answer those tomorrow. We can answer them. We're probably running up close to our time limit for this evening. However, if anybody wants to email me or email the department or reach out and give us a call, we'd be glad to follow up and talk to anybody else that we could and try to answer those questions. Our goal, as I said before, is to try to make the community safer, or at least feel safer, and to be as transparent as we can.
Chief, I believe we have one more question.
Okay, good.
I was in the civilian academy, and we saw a presentation just, I don't know, a month ago about the social workers that are available through a grant, and that's helping the homeless in Blue Springs. Mm-hmm. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that program, or is Blue Springs going to continue to grow that type of service to help with the homeless?
Yes, that's my hope. So we have, through a partnership with Burrell, formerly Comprehensive Mental Health, we have dedicated to our building what we call a co-responder. Co-responder is a civilian position trained in crisis intervention. And they can go to scenes where someone's having a crisis and help our officers navigate that and get that person who's having that crisis resources. That is provided by grant from Burrell, and then they are housed out of this building. I'd love to have another one to have more coverage on our hours. Burrell knows that. So we'll see where that goes. What was your other part of that was, yes, I hope to expand that program, but that has just been instrumental for us in getting community resources on how to deal with someone who is suicidal or having a mental health crisis of some sort, of that nature. So I'm glad that you found that interesting. Thanks for bringing that up.
My continuation of that was the services they were providing for homeless. Is there, I was very impressed with the program and really wanted more of it. And so where it could help the homeless, we're starting to see more and more homeless around Blue Springs. So. Yeah, and so that's what we call our vulnerable populations, whether they're homeless, housing challenged, or maybe those with mental health issues or substance abuse issues. Those are vulnerable populations that we take a look at. And actually part of the strategic plan for the city is to try to find resources to address that. So what our co-responder can do, while their focus may be on mental health, obviously someone who's homeless may be suffering from those things, and there's resources that they can steer them to and help direct them to get off the street and maybe find shelter. Okay.
Any other questions?
I don't see any other questions.
I think that's it. I'd like to thank everybody for attending online then, Chief. Thank you for your presentation. Those in the audience, thank you for attending as well. That concludes our annual forum for this evening, I believe.
Thank you. Appreciate it. If anybody wants to reach out to us, please feel free to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.